He said, and I'm going to cry. He said, because I do every time, he said, Brad, if it's hard, and it's going to be, you need to decide if you can do it or if you can't. And if you can't, turn around and come home. I'd rather have you come home. But he also said, if it's hard and you think you can, this is where I cry, reach up and your mom will reach down and she'll help you up. And that was the first thing I thought when I got to the summit. Hi, I'm Brad Singer, and you are entering a world gone good.
Well, hello, my name's Steve, and this is the place where we shine the light on everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. Hey, are we friends on Facebook? Are we following each other on Instagram? Get in on our good social times with us. Come on now, on Facebook, we are World Gone Good. Simple. And on Instagram, we are World Gone Good Podcast. Give us a follow. We'll happily return the favor and get social with you back. Okay, so if you've been listening to our last couple episodes since the premiere of our season 6 here, you have heard our big good news. We're now coming to you from London. Yes, that's right. World Gone Good is off exploring the first word in the title of our show, world. And oh, the exploring we have done and been doing and keep doing. Drum roll, please. Or perhaps I should say, drum croissant, please. Paris. I went to Paris. I've never been to Paris. We stood under the Eiffel Tower as it lit up and sparkled. We saw the Mona Lisa herself within the Louvre. We took a riverboat tour up and down the Seine. It was very fucking cold. I gotta tell you that. The temperature dropped that day. It was cold on the water. We went 20 meters underground to walk the catacombs and so much more that I could have made into an entire episode about it. But I didn't. I did not. No, because I was trying to do this thing called live in the moment and live presently. And I love you, but I also wanted to just experiencing things, but I felt a little guilty. So I did bring you back a little something from a lovely Parisian singer atop a footbridge. Someone please translate the lyrics and send them to me. Yes? Oui? Merci. We continue our themes of exploration and adventures. We're going today, my friends, to Mount Everest, to the Grand Canyon, to Alcatraz, to Kilimanjaro. But to do all that, we simply have to go speak with our friend, our good guest from the United States, Mr. Brad Singer. Here's what you need to know about Brad. He is bold and he is brave AF, as the kids say. But he himself does not see himself that way at all. He sees himself as, well, I'm going to let him tell you. But before we jump in, you need to know this. This is it. It's never too late. You're not too old. There is plenty of time left. You can do it. Whatever your it is, if you choose to make the bold and brave choice to do so, just like Brad did, and keeps doing, you can do it. If you take nothing else from this episode, and there's lots to take from this episode, trust me, it's that. You can do it. Here comes Brad Singer to share his good adventures. So I was home and my mom says to me, "Are you still doing your podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, who did you hear that I'm not? Like, what did you?" And she said, "I have somebody for you for your podcast. I have somebody. Oh, yes, this wonderful person did that." And she told me about you, Brad. And it was interesting. And I want to start here actually, because when I texted you or you texted me,
Yes.
this is something you wrote to me.
Oh.
As an average person, I had to think what makes me interesting and what story do I really have. Over the past few months since I've been back, when I talk to people or small groups about my experiences, I hear words like inspiring, personal connection, and passionate. And so I'm coming to terms with the fact that there may be something there that other people are seeing that I might not be seeing myself. And you wrote this on June 28th at 4:01 p.m. It is long past June 28th, 4:01 p.m. My question to you to start is, are you still an average person? And are you still seeing what you accomplish as something that's not really, I don't know, that's special?
Maybe I do things that are different, that if people were looking at me, I'm a massive 5'6", and but I'm stocky and I'm older. So
How old when you say older?
I am 62.
Okay.
So I could buy a national park pass for life now.
Okay. Have you always seen yourself as an average person? And what's your definition of an average person?
I don't know, because I only know me, and I measure myself again. I mean, sometimes I measure myself against other people. I wish I could do that. If I always seen myself as average, it depends on where I am. If I'm in a math class, I'm probably above average. But if I'm in some deep science or computer programming, I'm probably less than average.
Okay. So you're this average guy, and my audience is sitting here going, well, what did he do that isn't average? So why don't you tell everybody from your own words, and I'll hype you. Don't worry. I'll hype you up when you don't. Go ahead.
I'm 62, and I'm in my third lifetime. When I was 30, I was diagnosed with cancer, and we had a 2-week-old baby at the time. Little scary. And when I turned 60, I realized I've lived long past when I was supposed to not be around anymore. So here I am, 60 to 90, and I consider myself fortunate to be in a third lifetime. So I'm lucky in that way. In the last, I think it started when I was 49. My boss and I and his boss were walking through the American Express, one of the buildings here in North Phoenix, and they were talking about working out. And one of them said to the other, "I work out. This is what I do." And Brad, what do you do? I work. So I didn't work out very much.
You did half the assignment. You work, not work out. Continue.
Yes,
Right.
right. I think it was 2012. Instead of going to Flagstaff or to San Diego for vacation, we decided to take a road trip and go see Yosemite and maybe Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. And on the trip in San Francisco, my wife and I were looking at our kids, and they were young, but they had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia at a relatively young ages, in early teens, and stressful because they're in pain and there's nothing you can do, and you feel for them. And I was watching them play on the Fisherman's Wharf, and behind them, I saw Alcatraz Island. And my first thought was, well, let's go take a tour of the island. And then my second thought was, wait, there are my kids who are in pain. They know I've been through cancer. They know I've been laid off from a job. And they know that I have a bad knee from football in high school. We all do. And I told them, I said, guys, here's what we're going to do. It's October, and we're going to come back in May. When we come back in May, I'm going to swim from Alcatraz to the shore.
Wow.
Really a foolish thing to offer, because I was a sprinter in high school, not a distance swimmer. The only amount of time I've spent in water had been eating peaches in the shallow end on Saturdays with the kids and Melissa. and I had asthma. So who thought I would be smart enough to make that commitment? So we came back in May, and we had an adventure. And I got into the water, and I swam Alcatraz. And I told my kids, "This is what you do when life puts you down." And then if I go back to the conversation of my boss and his boss and me saying I don't work out, by that time I had worked out a bit to be able to do that. And then about a year later, I felt like, well, I've worked out enough. And before I lose it all, what else could I do that would be interesting and I would live? And so I told my kids that I was going to Africa in the following year to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And I'm not a hiker, and I've never been a hiker, but it sounded like something interesting to do. And I've heard other people had done it, so I figured, what the heck? My dad, who really bright guy, he passed away in 2016, and there's more on that in a little while. But when I told him what I wanted to do, he started crying, and well, he had tears to his eyes anyway. Um, and he unexpectedly, he's a generous man, but not always what you would expect. He pulled out his checkbook and asked, "How much do you need?" And I said, "Dad, how about just my first boots and my first trekking poles?" And so he wrote a nice check and covered those two things. I went to Kilimanjaro.
Okay, hold on a second because I have a question. You said that he got teary-eyed and emotional. So there was some pride going on for him and you, or it was something he had always wanted to do, or he knew that you had something special in you and he was just so happy that you sort of supermanned it up, you know?
I think it was a bit of a mix of those. Um, I think it was something he might have loved to do. Like when I swam Alcatraz, after I did that, he asked, "Do you think I could do it if I side stroke the whole way?" um, but he said he never had encouragement from his folks. He was a good athlete, but didn't have the encouragement to be adventurous. And so I think there was some of that. I think he was going with me mentally. And I think he was proud of me. After he passed away, my stepmother gave, because my mom had died when I was 17. So there's a lot of that too. But my stepmother gave me an envelope, and in the envelope were maybe 5, 10 5x7 index cards. And on those cards was a list of things about my Brad. And it was personal thoughts and things that I had done that he liked, things that I had done that he laughed at, things that he liked about me. How
Were there
lonely I
things
must. Yes.
sorry, were there things on those cards that you remembered and things that you didn't?
Yeah, great question. The answer is yes. I remembered a lot of them, but then there were some thoughts that were just his thoughts, and I did not know them. I had hoped that he had thought those things, but never knew.
I know. I think that's so fascinating, though, because I think that's a perspective thing, especially from like father to a son, family members, right? It's
Yeah,
like as a parent, you remember all these things that your children did, and they're like, "I did that," and then your
yeah.
kids are going at you with all the things you did, and you're like, "I never did those things." So I think that's a really great trigger thing, and it also validates you and him and a relationship, and that's a pretty cool thing.
There was one thing that he said to me before I left. He said, and I'm going to cry. He said, as I do every time. He said, um, "Brad, if it's hard, and it's going to be, you need to decide if you can do it or if you can't. And if you can't, turn around and come home. I'd rather have you come home." But he also said, if it's hard and you think you can, This is where I cry. Reach up and your mom will reach down and she'll help you up. And that was the first thing I thought when I got to the summit. Um, yeah.
What did you now in that moment? What did you do? You remember what you saw in that moment visually? You know what you felt when you were at the summit,
Yes.
and you had that split second moment, and that thought passed through your head. What were your eyes seeing?
Aside from the obvious things of clouds way below me, which made me feel, hey, you know, is mom up here? um, uh, what did I feel? I felt it was in a way I had some thoughts, but it was a bit anticlimactic because everything, the pressure, the training for 6 months before, the making sure I could get my work done at work, and then 7.5 days on the mountain climbing and mostly trekking, but some you had to do some scrambling on a Barranco wall, which is a pretty massive thing. Um, it wasn't easy, but I lived my life 30 inches at a time. Just take one more step. Just take one more step. One more step. And that's been a cadence. I discovered my life sustaining pace, whether I'm hiking or trekking or even in life, 30 inches at a time. I think those are the things that went through my mind. I cried because my dad was right. I was thinking about him. I was thinking about her. Um, and so on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, all the way up, I was just happy to be there. I was amazed that this kid from Bloomington, Indiana, who grew up in La Mesa, California, was standing on the top of a mountain uh, thousands of miles away during Ebola, no less.
And you have to be so present, right? In those moments in your life. There's all those moments, when we got married, hopefully, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
when you're right, or when you're at a funeral, right? You're so in the moment, but when you are physically, you know, do or die moments like that, literally,
Yeah.
you're forced. There's a force presence there. There's a force, um, you know, living in the moment.
I think there's living in the moment and then making those decisions. Do I have enough in me to take another 30 inches? Do I have enough in me to take a 30 inches? You have to, sometimes I have found you have to respond to that with every step you take. But it's interesting after Everest Base Camp, and I know there's a progression and we'll get to that, but after Everest Base Camp, I came back and I said to um, the guy who went with me was my boss. His name is Jose. He's since retired. Um, uh, but I remember telling him, we've taken tens of thousands of steps to get to Everest Base Camp. And the last step I'm going to remember, even though I had to make decisions, all tens of thousands of decisions, the thing I'm going to remember is the last step when we get off the helicopter, when we get back to Kathmandu. That was the only step I remember.
Wow.
But there was a sequence, there was a
A
progression.
journey. There's a journey. It's like life. And you can be all focused on the final outcome, the destination. That's like the thing I just spoke about. Is like, I've said this before, I'm sure, on the show, is like there's so much hype around a wedding, right?
Yeah,
And you have that buildup for like, whatever it is, 3 months to a year, maybe longer. Wedding, pictures, dress, food, flowers. And then everybody comes to the wedding and you go on your honeymoon and you come back and everyone's like, oh, hi.
yeah.
And you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like, wait, I was special. It
Yeah,
was amazing. But
yeah.
it's that journey. It really is. And it is one step at a time.
It is. And then it kind of took off from there. After Kilimanjaro, another buddy of mine, Lee, took me into the Grand Canyon for my first trip into the Grand Canyon. And we did what everybody says you're not supposed to do. We went down to the river and came back the same day. Not heroic. A lot of people do it, but I'd never done it. And I don't know why I thought I could, but it took a lot of hiking and to prepare. And then one thing led to another. And before you know it, it's Mount Whitney, which again, it's like it's under 15,000 feet. It's like 14,492. But then it's going through the Grand Canyon 9 more times and bringing people with you. And so family and friends. And one of the cool things that I think about me is I'm slow. I'm really slow. And I guarantee you, I'm the last one out of the Grand Canyon. But the neat thing about that is anybody who's having trouble along the way, who feel like they can't get out and they're alone or with one other person, I come across them. It's happened three times. Once with a group, a couple times by myself. And there was one specifically where we were at how it used to be called Indian Garden. I'm not sure if it's Havasu Garden now or what, but um, I saw a light behind me in the distance, really far back. And I called out because there was no one in the canyon. I figured, what the heck? Maybe they'll hear me and I'll wave. But lights, nighttime, and I was stopped at this place. It was about 4,500 more feet before could get out of the Grand Canyon, which is another 5 miles. And I waited and I ate, and that light came slowly toward me, and it turned out to be a man and his wife, and she was physically drained, couldn't go any further. And it was 9 o'clock. I had started at 5:30 in the morning, and like I said, I'm slow. Um, but I got we spent the night together. We continued the hike for the next 5 miles until 5 in the morning. She needed to sleep on the trail a couple times, and that was fine. And I liked the feeling that it wasn't just a hike through the Grand Canyon anymore. It was bonding with other people who needed some sort of comfort. And I like that. I had trouble in the Superstition Mountains once and ran very low on water, and it was hot. And now I carry extra water. And so many times I come across people who look kind of droopy, and just ask, how are you doing? And I say, I've got water and some salty food if you need it. And people take me up on it. And I think the thing that I'm starting to like is that it's a very personal thing now.
When you are preparing for a hike like this, what is your prep? What are it's got to be not just physical prep. There's also got to be some mental prep going on. There's also got to be some food and clothing and all those things going. Like I said, this is a lot more. This is, there's certain clothing you're going to need depending on what time of the year you're going, et cetera, et cetera.
The prep to go on a long trek for me is maybe time on a treadmill, time on a stair stepper, time on an elliptical, hiking, even in Arizona in August at 4 in the morning. You get up and you hike because you put money down on a trip, and you don't want your wife to say, you put money down and you're not going to go. So,
Right.
um, there's so much of that. And over time, I've built a relationship with someone at REI here in Chandler, Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And her name's Christiane. Great. And she's been my outfitter. So for each of my mountain treks, whether it's Kilimanjaro or Aconcagua in Argentina, or Mount Whitney, or Mount Baker in the Cascades, or Everest Base Camp, she outfits me. We talk about what's the weather like, what does your list look like, So it's been fun to develop that relationship. As far as the Grand Canyon, for example, and I guess it's just like all the others. The Grand Canyon, you have to. I prefer to start on the North Rim and come down to the South Rim. It's about 22 miles, but you have to realize that once you leave your car and you leave your belongings there, you better have the belongings that you need because you're now in a shuttle going to the North Rim, and if you forgot something, there's no retrieving it. And that's a little intimidating, but it's an interesting thing.
Tell us about Everest. When did you? I mean, it was this like the the peak trek, which is tongue in cheek to say that. You know what I mean? Was this the top of the list, the one you built toward, the one you thought about, or did it just be like, oh, one more to check off?
I don't think it was just one more to check off. I think it was one more that I thought I could do at my age, at my physical being.
Right,
Um,
because that's the most recent one you've done.
yes. The thought of Everest was kind of a non-spoken thing with my wife, Melissa, where when I went to Argentina in 2018, my thought was that's 22,500 feet, 22.8 maybe. And if I can do this, then we won't talk about what might come next. Because in my mind was, if I could do that, then maybe I could do the other. Um, and unfortunately, on Aconcagua, I only got up to about 14,000 feet. I got on the plane not feeling well, and it just got worse. And so I had to come home early from that, and that happens, and that's okay. But then I started to think, okay, what if I do Everest Base Camp and test high altitude again, up to like 17,000 feet for multiple days? Um, if I do well, maybe I'll go back to Argentina and try to grab that. Along this thought line, I did it. I was excited that I was still able to do that, and the altitude didn't bother me. And then I asked everybody's asking me what's next, what's next, and what the thing that I came up with was for my kids and for myself probably, you can't always go back and finish what you started. Sometimes dreams have to remain dreams. And that's when I came to terms with, you know what? Um, in my 40s, I was working hard and volunteering everywhere. In my 50s and now early 60s, it's been a transition of adventures and not just traveling for fun, but adventures. And now my third lifetime is going to be whatever Melissa wants, whatever she wants.
Be careful. No, this is very key though, I got to say in a serious note, because what you just said was so powerful because again, you were staying so present in your moment and saying I'm okay with that. And it's remarkable because there could be a disappointment, a feeling of failure, a feeling of negativity, right?
Yeah.
But you allow yourself to be okay with it. And really, remarkably, again, I can call you my friend, even though, we really know each other. My friend, you're not average. This is not average. This is truly, it's remarkable. It's inspiring. And for me, and I can hear it for you, it's perspective and being happy right where you are.
You know, I think after cancer and my mom passed away years before that, and my dad has since passed away, I think that's all I've got is I've got my kids and, one has a husband, the other has a boyfriend, and everybody's really, they're good kids. Now we're getting grandkids, and I'm happy where I am at. I mean, I'm thankful. I shouldn't be here, but I'm thankful. the things that I see in my journeys that I've put together in Argentina, for me, it was the wealth next to the poverty. And then in Kathmandu, thinking about this was a mind blowing fact. Thinking about the earthquake from 2015, they're still dealing with that. Not all the buildings and structures and infrastructure have been repaired since over 10 years. And they're resilient. And there's poverty and there's wealth. And then there's the people who are trying to still rebuild Kathmandu and I'm sure other parts of Nepal. So it's the strength of the people. It's the people I meet on the trails who are struggling and aren't afraid to ask for help when they need it because it's being honest. And that's all we've got. We got one life to live. Me, I've got 3 lives to live, but for most people.
For anyone listening right now who is thinking about whatever their Mount Everest is to tackle, to climb, to, I don't want to say overcome or beat, to just reach that summit, I think I know what you're going to say, but what advice would you give anybody? Whatever their Mount Everest is.
30 inches.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
I did. We close these shows with 2 questions. Don't panic. You know the answers.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Just go with that. For each, one for each. Here's the first question. It can be anyone you've already spoken about or anything you want to say. Who inspires you?
Who? Can it be they?
Sure.
I mean, it's memories of my mom and dad, and it's my kids. I mean, the cool thing now is my granddaughter. When I have a snapshot of a flat world map, and now if my daughter spun the globe, my granddaughter would be able to see wherever the globe stops. She'd be able to see where I've been and where I've hiked or swam. And to me, I'm happy with that. And so that my family inspires me, my legacy inspires me, and that's it.
And the final question is not a question at all. It's a statement to finish. We close every show this way. Whatever comes to your head, tell me something good.
Tell you something good. I just finished 7 months of my boss retired. We knew he was retiring, so at work, I had to take on his job, and he trained me for an intense 3 months. And then we went to Mount Everest together. And then I came back, and I've been working nonstop ever since. And today I'm going to upload a file, and that's going to mark the end of the intense pressure time. And so I'm going to go to San Diego with my wife, and we're going to spend a few days.
Thank you, Brad, for sharing your good journeys, literally. Next time on World Gone Good.
I think that a good scare roots you in your body.
The feeling of just that, like, jolt in your body.
It gives you a sense of, like, a shock or a thrill that resonates throughout you.
That adrenaline just, I live for it.
And that reminds us that we're alive.
It's that time of year again, my good goblins and ghouls, where we celebrate All Hallows Eve. Well, a few days early, but you get me. We've gathered together a professional scare actor. Yes, he gets paid to scare people. A Friday the 13th superfan. A few dinosaurs. Literal dinosaurs, not just old people like me. And even a ghost or two. You know what they say.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
So the question is, are you brave enough to join us? Until then, be good.